Okay, let's go for it. Yeah, so new players in D&D, how to support them as a dungeon master, what it's like to be one, I think is an important thing as well to discuss.
Yeah.
Now, I think the first place to start with being a new player is actually like your first experience before even playing the game.
Yeah.
So setting yourself up with the books, setting yourself up with the your character sheet, how to design characters, how that actually works.
Yeah.
Because it isn't actually that easy.
It's not. If we're talking from a D&D point of view, it's not easy in any way, shape, or form. And we don't want to scare you off. We're not trying to scare you off, but there is some complexity to the game of D&D that I think can be quite intimidating for people first starting.
Yeah, I think the first place that intimidates people is either the size of the rule books,
yes,
or the way the character sheet looks.
Yeah,
because when you play D&D, the character sheet makes loads of sense. You've got your skills generates a bonus. You have your skills that you are particularly good at. Mm-hmm. So as I said, stats, and then you have your skills you're better at that derive from those skills. People don't understand that. That's a weird thing that isn't actually that obvious from the character sheet. And I know next to religion it says brackets int, but people don't know what that means. So breaking the character sheet down can be really helpful. In my experience, the best thing to do is discuss with people what the actual ability scores mean. Once you know what those mean, you can start making character choices.
Yeah. So because you I would really want to, I know it's right at the start of the video, but I really would like to bring up I won't say the name of the club, but your school, as you're a teacher by trade and you work with children, and you've started a D&D club at your school, right?
Yeah.
That is exactly what we're talking about today, which is teaching new players, but for Key Stage 3. Is it mainly Key Stage 3 or is it Key Stage 4?
It's a bit of a blend. So there's kids from year 7 up to kind of 10 or 11 usually is kind of where
the
it
10
caps.
11s get a bit too cool for it?
Nah, they're pretty good.
They're good. They're chill.
They're good. People, what happens is, so people end up governing themselves. Once you show people how to play D&D, they take the ideas of it, of effectively making things up, and then when you attempt to do something, rolling a dice to see if it happens. And I think that idea, people don't always explain that very well, but that is pretty much the crux of the entire game.
Roll a dice.
Yeah, try to do something. Mm-hmm. If you get X amount, you succeed. If you get X amount lower, you don't. Mm-hmm. There's the critical success where you get what you wanted plus maybe something else. Mm-hmm. The critical failure where you definitely didn't get what you want and something even worse happens as well. And with that mechanic, people can play whatever game they want. They can do away with skills. They can do away with stats. People can just roll dice. I've seen people, not even just at the club, but I've seen people, some of my brother's friends play without really playing D&D. What they were doing is they were rolling D20s, and if the D20 was high enough, they achieved what they wanted. Kind of like an imaginary game with a little bit of extra rigor, I guess. But I think the stats helps a lot. One guy I met described the stats. He described the tomatoes method, which I think is a really cool way of describing it. And I'm probably going to completely butcher it, and it's not my idea, but it is really cool. So it's like your strength is how many tomatoes you can pick up. Dex is how many tomatoes you can dodge if someone's throwing them at you. Okay. Con is how many rotten tomatoes you can eat.
Before you throw up.
Intelligence is knowing that tomatoes are fruits, not vegetables.
Yeah.
Wisdom is knowing not to put tomatoes in a fruit salad. And charisma is how many tomatoes you get somebody to buy from you.
Okay,
which I thought was a cool...
I think you aced that.
It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Well. Yeah, you undersold that, but that's great. Yeah, I mean, I've just started the same. I've just started teaching. I'm a training teacher right now. And what I find what was really interesting with the kids was like how sometimes actually a little bit of the rules, they were doing very much the same, the kind of chaos. They had one set of dice between them. between like 15 children, and they were like making roles, but there was no real rules, and it was kind of this kind of chaotic, kind of crazy like thing. But I kind of took some, like, split them up, and then was going around the teams and kind of teaching them some of the base rules. Like you said, the main thing with D&D is like how you make a roll. You want to do something, the DM places something on that. It's an acrobatics, it's a religion, and then you make the roll and you see whether it passes or not. That is like kind of the crux of the game. And once they had that, they like ran away with it. They were making all these rolls. As soon as you would give them a little bit of the rules, that was it. They had taken it, they were pulling it apart, they were really enjoying themselves. So it is, I think a way to structure this would be this video being advice for DMs and veteran players who have invited a new player to their table, and how to help that new player into the game, basically, I think would be a really good structure for this. And that kind of sums it up of, like, I think giving them incremental rules, like first with the children that I just taught them, that's how you make a roll, and then do whatever you want with just that for today. Next time I come back, I'm going to go, this is how a weapon works. And then now we've got some structure around how to actually do combat in the fights and stuff. So maybe that's something you can apply. Maybe if you're playing with adults, though, you could be a little bit more, forthcoming with the rules and be like, okay, well, I'll give you the base or the structure here, and then
you can, but then it works equally well. So my experience as well is, over the past couple of years, me and my family, so me, my brother, my sister sometimes, my mum, my auntie and my cousin all have a little pirate D&D campaign, which we've been running for a while, which is super fun. Super fun.
I love it so much.
And my auntie is quite... She has some quite cool creative moments, and she likes her like comic books. She's like into graphic novels and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So she came with all these cool ideas about what she wanted her character to be like. It was just taking what she wanted to do and putting the mechanics to it. So she was like, I want to have 2 hand axes because that just sounds sick, and I want a long sword and I want a crossbow. She's like, I want all of those. And I was like, okay, cool. Yep, sound. They work all slightly differently. So when she goes, I'm going to go for the hand axes, it's like, okay, so this is how it works. You can have an offhand attack or whatever, and you run it like that. And putting it into like chunks like that, of, like you were saying, bite-sized bits. Yeah. This is how you take a skill. This is how you make an attack roll. Can be really supportive for people. And rather than going, oh, by the way, there's these things called skills. Oh, yeah, skills derive from these stats. And oh, by the way, if you have this, if you have advantage, it's too much. People, you cognitively overload people.
Yeah.
And they lose interest. So I also think the best thing as a DM is to have a policy of, like, I will help you through any part. Any part. If you have a question, ask me. Don't sit there like, I don't know. Ask me the question and I can help you, and I can... Sometimes somebody asks you a question, you go, I don't know what the rule is for that.
Yeah,
I'll make
me a
something
lot,
up.
Actually.
Yeah, 100%.
That's me more than you would think.
Yeah. Full damage. I never know how full damage works. I just freewheel it every time. I just go, 20. Sounds good. 30. 12d8. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Plus blah. Like, you can do that. Mm-hmm. And also, a new player won't know the parameters for that, so they'll know that if they fall off a bridge, it should hurt.
Yeah.
But actually, the levels to which that hurt it matters more to veteran players. So on that front, is there, if you're starting a new campaign with new players, or there's a new player, what resources would you give them to support them in their start?
That's really interesting. I mean, like, so my first thing when you said resources would be maybe making... So you could provide, like, pre-built characters if it's a really, like, you're doing that kind of, idea. Like... did you... Surely people have done this, but they bought the D&D starter kit, and it comes with, like, a set of dice, and it came with, like, kind of 6 pre-built characters. That's quite interesting. You don't get the fun of making your own character, though. You don't get the fun of that, but it could be a really good way of just bringing them into the game. Because a lot of the complexity in D&D is making your own character as well. Like, if you've just got a character, say, oh, you're playing a dwarf cleric, you can make them how you want to make them, but you're going to be playing a dwarf cleric, and this is how a cleric works, and so forth, or a paladin, for example. I think that can help. Or being kind of like, as a DM, sitting with the person that's starting and helping them build their character for them. So sitting with them, building the character for them, going, yes, you can build your own thing, but I can do that for you, so it's not complex. I think that all the things I'm saying there, resources as well. You can put on their character sheets how certain things work. You could even make kind of flashcards, help cards to explain certain principles and rules. If they ask for that or they're really struggling, you could build something like that. I think a lot of it though is kind of being very patient and encouraging. Like, you have to be patient with people. You can't expect people to just enter into the game and know everything, which is actually a really interesting thought, because in campaign 3, which we've discussed a couple of times on this podcast, my campaign 3, there was a time in the campaign where we had 2 new players and 3 veteran players at the same time, which was really interesting. And if you're lucky like me and you have really great veteran players at your table, they will also help you guide the new players. They'll help encourage the new players into RP with interesting dialogue and interesting character, or they will, as I'm saying something, and they turn to the veteran player and they go, how do I do that? And then the veteran player goes, oh, I'll show you, I'll tell you. And they help them walk through the sheet, or go like, I want to do this thing on my turn. And the veteran player can help them do that. So having a good mix can be a really good way. I think you have to talk to your veteran players and let them know that that's happening, though.
Yep.
And let them know, like, oh, we are going to have some new players, so they don't just go like, well, I don't actually want to be teaching people how to play, I just want to be playing. But I have not had that experience from the community. No. I think that would be, maybe there are those people. I'm sure there are, but I haven't encountered them. Those people that would be like,
if there are those people, they own fedoras. That's all I'm going to say. I'm just giving a prediction. They own a fedora. Prediction.
Yeah. Everyone who's watching has just gone, just taking off their fedora, like, no.
Exactly. Yeah, I really like the index card idea. I really like that. And actually, that's something Warhammer does really well.
So well. Even better than data
exactly, is the data cards. And it's a little neat way of representing them. If what you want to do is you want to do all your spells on flashcards, and just have a flashcard app or have little flashcard sheet, that is so good.
I would recommend that so much, because I do that to all my new players, because you can buy those like D&D Gale Force 9 cards. I think it's Gale Force 9, which they're like not reasonably overpriced. But they're cool. Like they've got all the spell stuff on them. But you can also make those your own. They won't be as fancy as nice, but you really can just make them with some flashcards. And that's so much better than flicking through the PHB when you want to do your spells every turn. Because that can be a bit of a buzzkill, unfortunately.
It can be a drag. And like, example, actually, something that I thought was really good, that actually our producer did, which was awesome, was our producer's character had this ability, which was like, you could use any level 4 spell in the game. And
who gave them that? That's horrible. Like, gosh, that's atrocious. Think of the bookwork. Terrible.
Terrible. Our producer took time really to select all the spells and write down basic keywords of when to use them, like utility. This is a hyper damage spell.
Debuff,
this is a buff spell.
Damage.
And that is really sensible, because you can like
coded it all.
You can code all your stuff. And actually, if you start that at level 1 and you only know 5 spells, it's quite easy. Then when you learn a new spell, to just sort it, and then by the end, all your spells are already pre-sorted. Could be a really, like, that is, to be honest, that's not even beginner player stuff. That's like, I recommend that to anybody.
Yeah.
Because I've never got round to doing that, and I regret not.
I have not done anything like that before. I'm a very minimalist player.
Yeah.
I make up a lot. Fireball. 6, right? Right, yeah.
Yeah. And then the DM has to be like, huh?
What
did you say there, bro?
Definitely not. But it's such a joy, I think. Never be afraid to have new players at your table, because it's just such a joy. I think anyone that's played D&D for a while knows the kind of the love of just like introducing someone to the game, like board games, TTRPGs, D&D, anything. Just introducing someone to the game and just seeing them go like, whoa! This is what this is. Like, we can go on these crazy adventures with my friends and, like, slay dragons and rescue people. Yeah, mental.
I've had that with my mum, actually, which is really cool.
Okay.
So we were playing the pirate campaign, but she actually has been playing a long-running game with my little brother, my stepdad, and some family friends as well. And there was a point where they were playing every week, and now it's probably every couple of weeks or sort of thing. But it's been very, very long-running, like a few years campaign.
Oh my gosh.
And it got to a point which was really cool. So I went to see my mum, probably it would have been 6 months ago, 6-7 months ago. And we were having a chat about something. She went, "Oh yeah, by the way, I almost forgot." And then she went and got up her phone and was like, "Oh, I got this new spell." And she showed me this new spell. I was like, "This is actually sick, isn't it?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's a really good spell, though. That's sick." And we had a whole conversation about it. And like, she was someone that didn't know how to do it, and now she's like, "No, I really enjoy playing D&D. It's fun." She like,
that is
you
mad.
can set her up, and she'll go, "Okay, cool. That's what my character sheet. That's my attack bonus. This is my damage. I'll roll that." She'll need a little, like, if she plays a new class, she won't necessarily know what the class does, so you have to talk her through that. Which actually nicely and unintentionally segues me into talking about class selection. Which
that was smooth, man.
I thought that was alright. I was pretty happy with that one.
It's like you're like a podcaster or something.
Yeah,
you're learning.
It's almost like you've done a few episodes of this now.
No. Okay, that was good.
Now, class selecting, this is how I do it with a new player, is I go, how do you want to kill stuff? That's literally all I say. So how do you want to kill stuff? Do you want to kill stuff with a sword? Do you want to kill stuff with a bow? Do you want to use magic? Do you not really want to kill stuff and sit back and help people? And then use those questions. Because saying to people, do you want to play a ranger or a sorcerer or a warlock? They go, I don't know what any of that means. Nothing. They're completely arbitrary names. Whereas saying, do you want to hit stuff with a sword and it die really quick? Yes. Okay, so you want to play like a barbarian or a paladin or a fighter.
Yeah.
But no, but I want magic. Okay, so that you barbarian and the fighter, you don't want those then. So
you could be a
paladin,
you want to be the paladin, Knight.
Or an Eldritch Knight, or an Eldritch Knight, exactly. And those, framing it like a decision tree.
Like a 20 questions.
Like a 20 questions thing, exactly.
Yeah.
And helping them come to a conclusion about what they want to do can be really, really useful. And then supporting them with the mechanics of that.
Yeah, I think I do a lot of the same, actually. Like, just how do you want spells? Do you want to be like a warrior? I kind of normally go through the classic fantasy archetypes of, like, Lord of the Rings, maybe.
Yeah,
do you want to be
that's
Aragorn?
the one.
Do you want to be Gimli? Do you want to be Legolas? Do you want to be Gandalf? Like, what do you think? And then guiding them towards the more simpler classes can be, or do you want it to be easy and simple and you want to play the game?
Yeah,
that's another thing I ask.
Yeah,
as well.
that's true.
Like, that's a good question to ask, because some people are like, I don't really care what I play. I just want it to kind of be easy so I can get a thing in the game. I go, cool. You can be a fighter or a barbarian, and then that's kind of what you do, and you can just hack things up and be funny and cool.
Chill.
Yeah, chill. I try to tend to. I do say, like, don't be a full caster. Please try. You can. I'm not going to stop you, but I do kind of to new players go, it's a lot of complication. It's a lot of, like, cognitive load. There's a lot going on. I say this, but then the new player that we got in campaign 3, I was like, play something simple. Here are the simple ones. And they were like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to play Circle of the Moon Druid. And I was like, oh, no, don't do it. Please don't. It's really complicated. Like, that you have to play all the animals have different stats, and, like, there's so much to it. And they were like, no, I am. I'm going to do that. I was like, okay, but it worked out, and it was great. But it was just a really steep learning curve. It was just a super steep curve, and they'd never played before ever. And they're amazing, and they do so well, and they've done so well, and so it works.
And tough. Actually, one of my favourite parts about that, actually, which I think is a tag onto that, is this player who was playing the druid, amazing D&D player. There was a point where we were facing up against these werewolves, and it was a sketch. Like, they weren't nice werewolves; they were nasty, and
they were horrible werewolves.
And they were mangy, horrible werewolves, and
very Dark Soulsy. They weren't. Yeah, nice.
Very Dark Soulsy, and we were all a bit roughed up.
Yeah,
we were a bit roughed up when we go into this town, and we were all a bit scared of how it was going to go. And she looked up her spells and went, "Okay, I'm going to moonbeam them." And Moonbeam, they take a save. If they fail the save, they revert back to human form.
Yeah.
And the way that the spell reads is that they revert to human form, then they take damage, which we interpreted to be like they're turned from a werewolf into a base human. Then they take 13 damage from this Moonbeam.
Yeah.
And she was just scorching these werewolves. And all of us,
so
veteran
good.
players, had never even seen this spell, had never like taken any time to think about it.
Yeah.
We were like, oh my god. And she completely swayed this combat. It turned a scary combat into a clean slate. We swept them over.
Right.
It was over in 2 turns. And like, people can have outside of the box thinking and can come at a problem in a way that veteran players are quite stuck in.
Yeah.
I find myself getting locked in this.
These are the spells that are good. These are the spells that are not.
Exactly. Yeah. What's the optimal thing I can do all the time?
Yeah.
And actually what that does is it takes all the possibilities in a D&D game and cuts them and slims them down, and that can be uninteresting. So actually having newer players or people that have played different games but not this one allows them to approach problems with a different mindset.
Just gives you another perspective, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Just gives you another perspective on the game. And I think that's the joy of it, isn't it? That's the joy of having new players at your table, you know?
Yeah. And on that, actually, talking about adding new people in, did you ever worry about what adding a new player in would do to a group? Like the social dynamic, I guess? Is that something that crossed your mind?
For sure. I think I was very excited. We had played with the same team for a long time, both kind of campaign 1 and campaign 2, and there was some people were falling away. They didn't want to play for another campaign. They're really long. They're a massive commitment, and I put out the feelers, and I hoped I was like with the thought of wanting different perspectives was the whole reason why I did it as well. Like, I want new people because I want there to be new energy at the table. And we even had someone that joined and then left quite early because they didn't enjoy it, or they didn't get it, or or they just didn't have the time to do it. But you had a chance to kind of see these worlds through a different lens. And also they are now our best friends ever, which is which is mad. Like, you can bring new people into your gaming space and then they become your really close friends. I can imagine it's quite a vulnerable place to be as well, because you can invite people in and them not be good. But we're very lucky that we didn't have that experience. And I think if you invite someone in and they're not particularly great, or they're not in the code of or the ethics of the game, then it's within your right to just be like, sorry, it's not working. Like a relationship, like a job, I guess, or something weird like that. But yeah, and it did. For campaign 3, it really did change up the vibe of the campaign, because we were playing with different people, which means there was different storylines, which means there were different opportunities, there were different strings to pull, and different.
I'll also add to that. We were an all-male group in campaign 2, and we weren't in campaign 1, but we were in campaign 2, and actually adding 2 girls into the mix changed the dynamics of the group itself outside of just D&D players. It changed the dynamic in a really positive way. I thought we could tell different stories as well, and people had different approaches to the same thing. I was really cool. Also,
it was a big change,
also quite artistic people as well, which I always really liked that, is seeing their notebooks and things like that.
I know, it's great.
I always was like, wow, that is
because we were all like cool. 4 blokes with a scrap paper each, all just go and do like speeches on top of castles, like we will march and do crusades and all that stuff.
It was,
and
good.
Then and it was great, and it kind of inspires you as well, because you see like the notebooks and doing that stuff. I did try because of that. I was inspired to do it myself. I suck at it, and I didn't. Well, maybe that's negative there. Maybe that's me just negativing myself. But But that's what it brings as an opportunity, is to see other perspectives and see how other people play. And when they're new as well, like it's so malleable. Like they come up with such interesting stuff, because if you play together for so long, you've all kind of merged into the same kind of style of play. So when new people come, that kind of cracks open that style of play a bit, and you can add more elements, and it just makes a better kind of model. Really.
Yeah. I think as well, it kind of begs the important question, really, of like, what is the optimum group size? Because that is also a thing to consider, actually. And I've heard a lot of people talk about this, and I think I agree largely that 4 or 5 as players is the ideal with a DM. Anything more than that, because there was one point in campaign 3 where we had 7 players
online
as
well.
It was which is 7 players on Discord, it was hard, and we were still telling great stories, and there was still some amazing characters. I mean, one guy, Gunther the Gallant, was an absolutely insane character. Our friend came through on that one. Really came through, but like that was harder because all of our time was split more. There was less limelight time or spotlight time, which, like, if you look at it, yes, we're playing a role-playing game, but also, like, the way we play is it's acting. It is acting. You're playing a role, and there are points where you have to have your character be in the spotlight and say your speech and say your thing and have your argument with an NPC or another character. And the time we had to do that was just divvied up and divided into
small increments.
Exactly that. How was it? What was it like to manage as a DM with that situation?
I've managed 7-man games in person, sometimes even 8-man. Not too much of a problem. People will talk, but you just focus in on the people that are listening and the people you're having interactions with, and it means that the other people at the table don't get bored because they're getting to chat to each other and do little things in character with each other. Online, massively different story, just because people cannot do that interaction with each other. They can't take each other to a side and just chat as, you know, you're waiting for somebody else's story element to be done. So unfortunately, it ended up at a point where people were just waiting around so long. People know that, you know, D&D has a problem with waiting for turns and it being a long time in between turns. Combat was nigh on impossible to do.
Oh, it was so horrible. It was so really difficult.
It was so savage. But yeah, I think I would say 4 to 5. 5, I like 5 just because I get the more people the merrier for me. Like, the more the merrier. And 5 is just manageable. Like, I can just manage that and keep everybody happy. So 5 is the way for me, just because I want that extra person. If I can squeeze.
I like that, and what I like about it is 5, an extra player. Means an extra. Means a relationship between the other 4 players with that person, and it adds so many more relationships and relationships with NPCs, and it's real exponential growth in terms of that. I definitely like 5. I definitely do like 5. I really like 5 in person. Like the last episode just felt, we met up and we came over to yours and we were all in one room, and having those 5 people and used as a DM. And the level of roleplay has never been better than that. It was literally the best. Good. The best. And I was completely blown away by that, to be honest.
Man. Yeah. It's good. It's interesting because I think we've got an episode lined up to talk about kind of in person and online D&D. I think that's literally the next episode we're recording, which is exciting. And I've got so much to talk about with that, and I think you do too. So we'll keep that in the bag. But like keeping on the kind of premise of the kind of new players as well. There was something I wanted to say, which is another thing I thought. The line of getting a new player out of their comfort zone to perform, but not spotlighting them so much they become uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Which I had a thought as we were speaking to them, which could be really fun to talk about, is that kind of line. It's really difficult to walk. I have a tendency to put spotlight people way too much sometimes. I can go now you, come on, dance with me, monkey, and then which can make people kind of uncomfortable. But what are your thoughts on that?
My immediate thought was I went to like a learning thing, so like some teacher theory stuff is. I'm sure you've learned about this, of the zone of proximal development. Yes. Which is, if for people that aren't familiar with this concept, basically it's what's called the stretch zone, which is where you're not in your comfort zone. You're not so far out of your comfort zone that you can't cope. You're in this sweet spot of progression. And that is like the zone of proximal development is where if you're a budding footballer and you're a coach and you're trying to develop young footballers, that's where they want to be. They want to be challenged, but they're not so much that they're burning out.
Yeah.
And I think you can do that, but you can go, right, one time in episode I'm going to turn the spotlight. And actually what you can do sometimes as well is you can turn the spotlight on two players at once.
Yeah, that's
and you can go, I'm going to pull the new player who I want to push them a little bit, or not push them, but like give them an opportunity, I suppose.
To kind of become more comfortable in a kind of spotlight situation,
and somebody else, and then
to support them,
and you can work that around, and I think those things can be really nice. Sometimes as well, it's about giving an opening. So you present a stimulus, maybe an NPC turns up that you guys all thought were dead, and it was an NPC that this character liked quite a lot, and you don't necessarily chuck them at the person's door and go, spend time with the NPC, but the NPC appears and they might take the opportunity to have a minute conversation. It might be like a one-word thing that they say. It might be that they actually pull that person aside for like the Love Island chat.
The Love Island
and have
chat.
Like the whole conversation of like, how are you? What's been up to? How did you survive? All of those things. I think giving people the opportunity is important. I think forcing them to take part is difficult. And also that's a conversation I think you can have outside of the game. Is you can have chat with them and go, oh, by the way, I want to try and find a way that I can give you some some roleplay opportunities. Is there a way you'd like me to do that?
Yeah.
And they might say, oh yeah, the best thing to do actually is to grab two people. Or the best thing to do is to give my character something scary, because I find portraying the emotion of fear easier than I do the emotion of happiness. Or I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but
I totally get what you mean.
Do you see what I mean?
You're once again getting back to that thing of like conversing with people. I know it's literally every episode we come back to it, but it's so true. Just talk to the new player and be like, maybe if you spotlighted them and they were really uncomfortable, and you go, oh, I'm going to log that away, and then you approach them or you message them and say, hey, I spotlighted you today, and you felt a bit uncomfortable. I don't want that to happen. How can I make you more comfortable in this scenario? What are you comfortable with? If I did this or this, and trying to like offer solutions, because I think it's hard to offer solutions on a podcast because everything's so dimensional. Like it depends exactly the scenario you're having with that person, depends your relationship with that person, and so forth and so forth. But conversation with them is good. But I think getting people out of their comfort zones is kind of the job of the DM, and it is kind of your responsibility. And it's a great torch to hold. Like, it's a really good thing. Lots of people find confidence through playing D&D. They find oracy skills of being able to talk better and talk out loud amongst peers. So you can facilitate that growth in somebody. Yes. So that's a really strong torch and
powerful thing. So be doing that, but that comes great power comes great responsibility. Make sure that person's comfortable, make sure make sure they're comfortable and have a conversation with them, but through it, because I find that people sometimes can express things more because they're using this whole reason why anxious people are drawn to acting a lot of the time, because they find it more comfortable to be around people when they kind of have this mask on of a character, so they can have social anxiety. Like, this is me, by the way. You can have social anxiety, but then when you're acting on a stage, you have no anxiety because you're portraying a character. But you're still practicing confidence. You're still practicing oracy. So yes, it can be a really safe space to practice those things. So do try and encourage it and have a conversation about how you can do that. I think the conversation is just so key about what people want to do, because it might be people are comfortable. So taking, for instance, my auntie's experience, at starting out, she was most comfortable with combat.
Okay,
because she could describe what she wanted to do and she could roll some dice, she could kill some people. And then we developed the role play part to the point that she actually became quite adept at it. She was happy to give it a try, and she was happy to have moments in the spotlight. But initially it's hard, and you just work your way up. You just work your way up to that, I think. With any of these things, a new person is not going to be, unless they're a real rare person, they're going to be nervous about it. I know I get nervous before stuff. And actually having an open mind is really important as a new person. I'd say if you're coming into joining a new group, you know, have your moments, you know, in the sun. Let the spotlight fall on you. If you're nervous about it, talk to people around you. I'm nervous. Could I set us up and we could have like a paired conversation and you could help me with the role play? Who's going to say no to that? Like, if you know they're friendly people, give that a good shot, and I think people are gonna have fun with that. I think there's a wealth of enjoyment to be had with role playing games.
I love them. I love them so much. They're so good. I think they give me the same type of. They give me an even greater form of escapism than like a fantasy book or a sci-fi book. Do you know what I mean? You can really escape into a different world. You can deal with problems that maybe you're struggling to deal with in real life, but because it's in a game, you can go through these things and do these things. There's another thing that I would just not a segue, but there's another thing that I want to talk about, because this might be interesting for the viewers, which is like the balancing between new and veteran players. So, do you know what I mean by that?
We're talking about with items, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
carry on.
So a lot of, and with other things as well. So I had in this campaign 3, we had 2 new players, 3 veteran players, and the way I would balance them is by using outside stimulus, basically. So through items, and I made this thing called Zeal, which is basically an incentive for turning up to my games. If you turn up to a game, you get a point every 10
Loyalty
points.
Wasn't it?
Every 10 points, you get a buff. Or you get a choice of 3 buffs, but they're random, and you can like. It was really cool. It was lots of fun.
It was sick.
That was nice because everyone waited for them to come around, and I did a motif of like you look up in the stars and there's a new star, and then you get a bonus, and it would happen at the start of the episodes, and people would get really hyped when it happened. It was really fun. But then through those buffs and through items, I gave the newer players stronger items, so that it would lift. So their experience was balanced against the veteran players, because the experience of the veteran players means they could utilize so much more of their toolkit to be so much stronger. So just those buffs, and it's kind of a bit of a balancing game, but that's a really easy way to do it if people are kind of thinking about that when they're coming to having kind of a mix of veteran and new players. Just cook the books, basically. Cook the books and just balance it with external forces is the way.
I totally agree. It's a key thing, actually, of balancing in as a DM. I think is an interesting thing to talk about, to be honest, is balance, because there's always going to be players who have a mind that they can unlock and exploit the thing that you give them, and it levels the playing field a bit, I think, giving more exploitable, powerful items to maybe slightly less experienced players, less so ones to more experienced ones. Just levels the playing field a bit, which I think makes for a more enjoyable gaming experience.
And there's like some creative stuff you can put in there. You don't want to deadball your players and give them rubbish items. You just give them stuff that is like maybe a little bit nuanced, bit more nuanced. The things are really strong, but they have to do certain things, or they're really situational. But like giving the newer players items that are very much, it gives you a static bonus, or it does this much extra damage, and stuff like that are normally very strong, but also are not as complex maybe as you're giving to the veteran players. Maybe the veteran players thing does less damage, but it has more situational applications to it. It's okay, but in certain situations you can change it. That could be the way, I think.
Ideal. I mean, I feel like we've pretty comprehensively given a quite good account there of like how to deal with new players. Is there anything you want to add before we kind of close up? Is there anything you feel we haven't touched on? Check the notes.
Yeah, check the notes. Okay,
interlude music. Yeah, the elevator music.
Allow for mistakes and retcons.
Yes.
That's quite a good one. So we'll maybe finish up with this one.
Can you explain what a retcon is actually? Because that's one that people might not know.
I actually don't know is it a retcon? Would be like what's the actual? I don't know. I use it all the time, but I don't actually know what it means.
Yeah, I don't know.
Retcon is going back on something and just erasing the mistake and saying, okay, that didn't happen, basically, and we'll move on from it not happening. Is really what you do, because sometimes people just make mistakes, and you just need to allow them to be able to make those mistakes in a safe environment. If they go, I'm a new player and I jump, and you go, oh, sorry, you've fallen in the lava and your character's dead. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just be like, are you sure you want to do that? You've done it. The character's died, or like you go, your character will die. So let's just not do that.
Let's probably not do that. Yeah.
Maybe we don't know. And de-emphasize failure. So just don't make failure a massive thing, basically. If you make a mistake, that's just be like, that's just not how that works. This is how it works, by the way. That might change your decision now, but like that is actually how it works, as rules written, okay? And then they go, oh, okay, sorry, I'm going to do something else now. So just that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And be kind, be encouraging, because we want more people in this game, because it's a great game. You're here watching this because you love TTRPGs, so be encouraging. Help us get more people into the field. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anything for you, Sam?
Brilliant. I think that closes it out. I think I feel really like we've covered all bases there, so that's really, really good.
Awesome.
Excellent stuff. I want to thank everybody for coming along and listening.
Yes.
And wanted to just give a little call to action, as we call it. We'd love it if you could subscribe, share our videos, give us a rating on Spotify. We're hunting those 5-star ratings. Hit us up with those. Comment on the YouTubes. Comment on Spotify. YouTubes, plural.
Oh my god, that's us now.
That's us.
I love that.
That's
I love
us.
that. With these people.
Yeah, we want to hear from you. If there's something you want to hear us talk about, let us know, and we'll put it in the plan. Also,
check out Instagram and YouTube Shorts, because Sam is tirelessly making great memes for us, and they are very funny.
I'm trying.
So check them out. I love them. They give me a chuckle every couple of days, which is great. So check this out. Check out the Shorts. And more content coming soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you for chatting with me, Sam.
Thank you very much, dude. Really enjoyed it. Cheers.